So you mentioned a psychomental vaccine. What would that be in your opinion?
A psychomental vaccine would be, for instance, the capacity to control what you focus on. If a person come and tell you, look, I think you're stupid. The problem is that that person shift your attention to a pool of bad experiences that you had in the past. And in that moment, that person practically reconfigure your inner attitude. And people say, you make me feel bad. But actually, you didn't make me feel bad. You pointed in that direction. I looked in that direction and I feel bad about what I find there. My insecurities, they're all mine. So you can't be held responsible for you pointing a garbage that I keep in the house and me blaming you. Why did you ruin my day pointing my garbage? Well, take away the garbage.
Is there such a notion like crisis-free life?
Crisis-free life is a life that is fully on with transformation. You prevent the crisis by learning the lesson before it becomes a crisis. When the person understands these things, they just embrace the lesson, and there's no crisis. It's a very enthusiastic situation of learning, updating yourself, evolving, transforming. A crisis is life's call for evolution. When you taste something good, when you eat something good, it's a reminder of feeling good. But now, stop for a moment. Can you just remind yourself about that without the food? Of course, with certain tools of your consciousness well trained, you can remind yourself every time how to feel good before you eat.
You know, people might think, well, I meditate an hour a day and then that's it, I've done my spiritual practice. But I love the way everything is important, everything.
Meditation, yoga, all kinds of spiritual practice are giving us the tools to do one thing: live our life to its maximum potential of teaching. If it comes this outer setting, it will bring us to extraordinary peaks. No, it will not bring us because we have the problem inside.
A lot of these tendencies and developments are happening due to the human psychology and the lack of development of the human psychology. You cannot blame something outside.
History repeats itself because we don't learn the lessons. And when we hide the lessons, definitely we have no chance to learn. Propaganda machine is, for instance, mainstream media today. We have all the signs of a totalitarian regime, the likes of which we haven't seen yet. On the other hand, we have communication, we have an amount of people who are having the best conditions to awaken that is unprecedented. And let's not repeat again the same lesson. Let's learn the lesson and move forward.
But in couple relationships, there is this, it's kind of like a curse. At the smallest challenge, the feeling that we develop is, that's it.
Intimacy is by definition supposed to expose us because that is the reason why it has this corrosive effect to the ego, dissolving the barriers. And yes, in this way you grow. Relationships are actually as limitless as our souls. So practically you can deepen a relationship all the way to God. It is enough to insert one very well-placed lie in the public consciousness, and the rest, the public will do it.
48% of the population demand that you need a vaccine passport to enter restaurants, you know, when the restaurants will open. The people want passports for cultural events, for restaurants and all this, so they don't even have to make laws.
This is the symptom of totalitarianism coming into power, redefining terms, redefining social relations, putting other proportions than the natural proportions in all events, and then they create tension by what? Staged events, 1989, which I have witnessed. People are the one who elected and put in power the crooks that exist today in power. People. Great awakening is a concept. How do you do it? You use some very effective method that can operate transformations in such an effective way that is the equivalent of an awakening. It's the quality that we have today that need to be raised. In my opinion, this is the solution and this is the alternative. Alternative to what? Alternative to the hamster wheel of history where we repeat and repeat and repeat until eventually we get so tired that we stop a little bit. Listen, can we find a way out? Yeah, the way out is the way in.
I agree 100% that there's no inner, there's no outer. it needs to be integrated.
When you bridge the two domains, a natural reorientation appears. When you start to look to your job, to your activity, with the moral principles that you apply in your personal life, and then you look at your personal life with the efficiency and the determination that you gain in your job there, things will transform. You mentioned one word which I think is the key. Some people who have courage. Courage can be and should be trained, because courage is the only cure to fear. You cannot stop fear, but you can cancel its effects with courage. What does it mean, cancel culture? An aggression on nations and people. It is known that culture is intimately related to the core of a nation.
Who is it that dictates what is right and wrong right now? Not just in the level of opinions, but actually all the way into lawmaking.
This is the problem. We never looked into that. A high-tech giant can cancel the president of one of the biggest countries on the planet.
People tell you, if you don't agree with me, just unfriend me. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, surely we can disagree and still be friends and have a conversation and grow in our understanding.
Of course, the problem with this wokeness today is the cultivation, if we look deeper, of an overinflated egotistic attitude. This attitude makes people easily triggered by even their own shadow.
Everything is basically based on personal interests or likes or dislikes, and there is no real constant factor like sense of ethics or moral.
Since 3 decades, we almost have never seen a political party rising because of a solid platform of ideas. We create an unsustainable economy. We created an unsustainable society. It's a reality. We don't even know why we created it.
Is there a way for power not to corrupt?
Yeah, it's to keep it in. When you keep it in, it's empowering your soul. Intelligence, without being in touch with yourself, your deeper self, is starting to destroy the world around you, because you start to interfere in the natural order.
Why do we as human beings buy into this very simple stories where there's a good guy and a bad guy, and even if we know, no, there's something wrong here?
It's because we are simplifying reality instead of expanding our consciousness. The answer is inside you. It's true, we are so unused with that. Since it needs a reset, it must have been something wrong with it. And if it was something wrong, we would like to know before anything who was in charge, and also to hear a viable explanation of what went wrong, because this is the essence of learning. We are told if you finish your homework, you can go out playing. If you finish your food, you get cake. Motivations can have severe destructive side effects when we do not understand them.
What's the best way then of educating people in order to move themselves off the carrot and the stick, the pain and the pleasure, the motivational schemes?
It's a gradual process of understanding, first of all, the problem, feeling the difference between willpower, for instance, and a motivational scheme that simulates willpower. Without this awareness, it's very hard to replace them, because you rely on them. We carry our best interest in ourselves. We don't need to have somebody outside of us who is thinking or feeling our best interest. Aspiration to better yourself, how is that born inside of you? It's already there. Make a little bit of peace, silence, stay in a tranquil place, and then you will see emerging from inside all these inborn aspirations. We motivate people when we cannot explain to people, when we cannot show to people, we try to motivate them. But the superior stage of learning is not programming people, is deprogramming people by showing them how it works. This is how it works. These are exercises that can validate your understanding. Now try it.
What makes Tantra so accessible for society nowadays?
Practically, Tantra is the spirit of science of evolution. Tantra has this dimension of logic and rationality impeccable. It traverses from the lowest instincts through rationality and logic to the highest intuition everything. I took from books of Tantra all kinds of statements, principles, methods, and systematically in similar conditions obtained similar results.
In which bookshelf will you put books about Tantra?
I would make a bookshelf which is called the core of every science. Tantra is to make this path of life itself significant, going to the destination. That's all. And you can accelerate your transformation and evolution once you learn how to drive. Desires are a map. A map to what? To your fundamental needs. What are the fundamental needs indicating? What do you need to reach to the destination? We don't need to believe in science. On the contrary, in order to keep it healthy as a ruling system, we need to question it. When we started to pay attention so much to the exterior and forget about ourselves, we started therefore to be convinced that pure objectivity exists. Practically, the observer remained outside of the phenomena. I would say that true scientists today need to step forward and not let politicians dictate their results. When we will approach our spiritual search with a scientific, systematic approach, and when we will approach science with the enthusiasm and with the intuition and freedom of spirituality, then the two sides of us will be united and integrated. Of course, we say that inevitably today the future is technological, but it will not be sustainable, in my opinion, without the evolution of the user.
What kind of skills can I start now to develop, to invest on, in order to be more prepared for the future to come?
Take hold of your capacity to focus, which is one of the most damaged systems that we have today and one of the most important in the future, which will unlock all the other capacities that we have and that are strictly human. They are beyond machinery in any way. So they are even beyond this machinery, this biological machine.
Technology is replacing many other tasks that we used to do. It also gives us a chance to do other things, to focus inside, for example, to connect with what is our potential, let's say, as human beings.
You try to send an emoticon. What does it mean for you? Stop a moment and start to realize you are an emotional being.
How should men be educated nowadays with regard to intimacy, emotional connection with the opposite sex?
The challenge in the bedroom is forging a strong character of the man. The need of the woman, which not by coincidence is a challenge for the man, is keeping the virility awake. So it's like nature made it so wisely. A woman is born perfect, but she needs to accept that. The man can become perfect, but he needs to accept the challenge. Acting from the heart without hesitation, one force of the forge, and taking full responsibility of what you did, second force. Caught between these two forces, the character of the man becomes like a diamond.
In a way, men now spontaneously is opposing a certain false stereotype of the man, the macho, and we long for the hero. This is why we long for Braveheart, Gladiator. We have this feeling, I want to stand for that. And then, as you say, sometimes we appear in, I want to stand for something, and we don't find that something.
When you cultivate the heart, the love that you have for an ideal, when you stand up for a higher spiritual purpose, then you will not need motivation. You just do it.
Thank you for listening to the Continuous Transformation Podcast. For more episodes, articles, and events, visit advaitananda.com.